morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 478, I'm going to guess, of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryon Media Network. Yeah.
Crier Media.
Today, recording day is Thursday, September 26th, 2024, and I can confirm, and as you can see by the fruits in my hair, that just before coming on the show, I was outside and it's raining. I got wet, my hair got frizzy, and I have one strand right here that just does not want to behave. So ever since we got on, I was like, what the hell's going on with my hair? And I did the thing where I took the headphones out and then I like shaked my hair out and then I put the headphones back in and then it just started to stray again.
I ask the question, what's wrong with my hair every day? I'm like, oh, there's none left. There's none left.
Yes, but the hair right here is gorgeous. So luxurious. And I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And as you can hear with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. I hope you are feeling better today, sir.
A little bit. Back was out yesterday and mental health was not good. So today, mental health is better. The back is still a little sore, but I'll be able to muddle through. You know, remember, if you eat well, get lots of sleep, do exercise, and drink lots of water, you'll die anyway. Open the wine.
Pass the bottle.
Yeah.
A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And I see Kit Jen there. We stand in solidarity with our frizzy queen. You know, don't you? Yeah. I feel you. I feel seen. So we do have a rainy day here at the Beaver Lodge, but I think we're going to have a good show for you today. Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today?
Yeah, major improvement over yesterday. Still have some work to do. I think change of season is really hitting me hard. It always does. Each year it's different. This year it's compound the fact that not only am I unemployed, but we're going into the autumn season, so it doesn't. It's all just death by 1,000 cuts, as the saying goes.
But in one sense, I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to help at all, but I know that you did say that you did want to take August off. So, I mean, if that is the case, then, I mean, you've only been at it 26 days, and we are in a climate of slightly tightening employment situation on purpose because the Bank of Canada was raising rates. So, it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a long conversation with a gentleman yesterday. I may accept a position, but it's a commission sales. So might have to stretch it out for a bit. We'll see. We'll see. I haven't made a decision yet. I'm going to reach out to him later. And I got a very busy day ahead of me. I have to make up for yesterday because I didn't get any narration done, and I have a bunch of stuff to get taken care of. So it's going to be a busy day here at Polly's World Studio A.
Yeah. Keep plugging away, my friend. It'll happen. It'll happen. I from working with you, I know your dedication, I know your talent, I know your skills. Somebody's going to see that.
Oh, thanks.
So
And
you
it's
have a
nice
lot
to
to
hear that.
offer.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, kits and cubs. There's the New Brunswick debate, but I think first we'll start with what we had here in the little promo that Mr. Grizzly wrote about our oh God. Yeah.
Where to begin?
Okay. I have developed a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, people were wondering why it is when we're talking about we're talking about Premier Porky Pig here.
Yes.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford. Why it is he was so focused on booze.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, well, it's got to be because
He needs to distract from something.
well, he has absolutely no answers
Yeah, of course he does.
for the big things: health, education, climate, housing, injection drug use, addictions, mental health. He's got no solutions. He's got literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing he is doing is controlling the small little things that he can bring from A to Z and point and look, I did that. So alcohol in corner stores.
Yeah.
Look at that. Haven't I made your life more convenient? Look at me. Pat myself on the back. Ain't I a good premier? I get stuff done. I get stuff done for the people.
Yeah, except that we're losing tax revenue.
But then again, right? Given his limited capabilities,
Intellectual
life
capabilities.
world experience, the only thing, and he's a bit like Trump in this way, the only thing he knows how to do, sort of, is build stuff.
Sort of.
Right? I mean, it's been 6 years. We need to build the home. We need to build these 2 highways. We need to build a spa. We need to build a parking garage. We need to build a new Ontario Science Center. We need to build some subways. And we need now to build the world's longest tunnel. And not by a lot.
Yeah, it's double.
Not by a little, sorry. It's like more than double the length of the current world's longest tunnel.
Yeah.
So it would be an engineering feat
Of epic proportions.
epic proportions. And anybody who knows anything about tunnels, because we recently had the experience in Ottawa, and
Mhm.
it's not like the tunnel's that huge. I mean, it's long enough, but it's not huge. But we had the sinkhole right at the corner of the Rideau Center at one point when they were digging like this.
Right across from the Chateau Laurier right there. And here's the thing.
As soon as you say tunnel, you say at least doubling of expenses and lots of extra time. As soon as you say tunnel.
That was predicted, though, that could happen.
Yes,
I met
it was.
I met a woman who was a
Because of the
geologist.
geological structure
Yes.
of Ottawa, yeah.
They said it was a very distinct possibility that was going to happen at
I was
some
actually
point.
surprised that it only happened once in one place.
Yes. Yes. It
That was
was
quite
kind
the
of a
achievement.
surprise.
It
Yeah.
just happened in the biggest, most visible place.
Well, and the tunneling machines they were using, too, were not TBMs. They were not tunnel boring machines. They
Mhm.
were literally just drilling, going down, digging a hole. They dig a hole, drop it in, and drill. So it's not a TBM. And a TBM is different in the sense that if they are to build a tunnel under the 401, they would be using TBMs for that, for sure. Because as you build it, you're putting up shotcrete, and then it's reinforcing itself, and the materials you dig out get used to create new concrete. So they're very, very efficient machines. They're very, very expensive, but they get the job done quite quickly, comparatively speaking.
Mhm.
But we've never used TBMs in Canada, I don't believe. So this would be a first. if it were to take place, number one. And number two, he wants to alleviate traffic. We have the 407, which is empty most of the time. Just divert truck traffic to the 407 and lift the tolls. Problem solved.
But he needs to look like he's doing something.
Yes.
So let's build something.
Meanwhile, people can't get doctors.
Well, here's the thing, right? I'm building the homes.
No, you're not, actually.
No, you're not. I'm building the roads.
Well, maybe, but 413 hasn't got a shovel in the ground yet. And as it turns out, most people don't even want Highway 413 because it's going to gobble up a bunch of green space that farmers are dependent upon.
Yep. But that's what I mean. It's like, but he gets so much media mileage out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like he's doing something.
Yes.
It's like, wait, I'm on the phone 24/7, like this. In a calendar year where he's taken 27 weeks off from being in the legislature, actually doing his damn job. So if there's an ASS that must be gotten off of, it might be your damn own.
Yeah.
Buddy. Yeah. Seriously. Because those people that you told to get off their ASSs, I doubt they have the choice to take 27 weeks off. They would love to take 27 weeks off their current life per year, I'm sure. Doug?
You know, the idea of a 50K train tunnel is not terrible, but why under the 401? Why does it need to be there? Couldn't it be somewhere else? You know, and why does it need to be 50 kilometers?
That's the other thing. I'm going to alleviate traffic directly under where there's the most traffic. What could go wrong?
It's the busiest highway on planet Earth, for those of you who are unaware. It is the busiest highway on planet Earth.
Could you imagine if they were building under that and there was some type of sinkhole and then part of that goes under?
Yeah.
Now what do you do for congestion?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a solution in place. The Highway 407. He waved his magic wand and let them get away with, what was it? They owed us $1 billion, and he just said, "Don't worry about it."
Yes.
Because it's a Spanish consortium that owns the 407 tolls.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if you waved your magic wand and made $1 billion disappear in fees and fines that they owed us, why don't you just wave your magic wand and make tolls for trucks disappear altogether? Or how about this? Just take the tolls off the road altogether. Just get rid of it. Because we're not getting any of that revenue. The province doesn't get it. The country doesn't get it. It gets farmed out to Spain. So just, hey, you know what? Just tear up the contract, Doug.
It's not like you haven't before.
I mean, you know, it's just, the solution is in place. It's there, already in place. Just change it.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Well,
well, it's like, it's not that you're opposed to it's like yesterday when we were talking about Sebastian Scamsey. It's like, oh, now you have a problem with edited clips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Girl, please.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, now you can't rip up a contract, Doug.
Yeah. Funny how that works. It's selective.
So, according to Davis Legree from iPolitics, Ontario's provincial government is exploring building a tunnel under Highway 401 in an effort to reduce commute times and cut back on gridlock. Speaking to reporters in Etobicoke,
not a state,
Ontario, Premier Doug Ford said the province would launch a feasibility study on how to best increase the capacity of a highway, often considered to be one of the busiest in North America. While the premier was short on specifics, he said the tunnel would run, quote, from Brampton and Mississauga in the west to Markham and Scarborough in the east. This tunnel would serve as a new expressway for both cars and transit, said Ford. This tunnel and expressway will cut gridlock, support economic growth, and help get people moving faster. Government statistics project travel times on Highway 401 to double by 2051, which Ford said will add 90 more minutes to commutes. The province expects every 400 series highway in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, including the tolled Highway 407, to be at capacity in the next decade. The Premier emphasized the new tunnel would not be tolled because I'm sure he promised.
Yeah.
Pardon
Why does he
me
want
while
to
I
build
have a
this
sip here.
50K tunnel? Why does he want to build it? Well, which one of his buddies is in the construction road building business? Which one of his donors builds roads and highways?
Yes.
And
Today in Doug Ford Loves His Kneecaps.
Yeah. He's got to make up for the Greenbelt fiasco somehow, right?
Right? When asked about the timing of the announcement, given widespread speculation that Ford will trigger an early election next year, the Premier said the province will be, quote, now sit down for this one, transparent about costs associated with the proposal. The guy
That's cute.
we had to take to court to find out what was in the mandate letters, the things that he told his ministers to do on our dime, on our time, and in our name, immediately after being elected the first time, were things we were so not allowed to know that we had to pay.
Yes, thousands of dollars in legal fees.
For legal fees to have the right to see them and also defend the case of not being able to see them.
It's absurd.
But he's going to be transparent. He's got that contract with Thurs that we're not allowed to see, but he's going to be transparent. Could find Ottawa on a map during the convoy and decided just to not show up for some tripartite meetings without giving any reason, but he's going to be transparent.
Yeah, pull this leg and it plays Jingle Bells. Come on.
Let's just say if I held my breath waiting for that one, I would probably turn Ontario Progressive Conservative blue.
Yeah.
I will believe that when it lasts. I will be transparent. My ass. That's just no way, man.
No.
Quote. Oh, and here's it. Why wouldn't I be upfront? He said. Through this feasibility work, we'll figure out the best way to get this project done. But I'll tell you one thing, we're getting this tunnel built. You don't yet have a feasibility. In fact, it's not even started. In fact, this is probably just an idea you came up with a couple of days ago, to be honest. Hey, that sounds good. Let's run with this one.
I think that's the case.
I'll tell you one thing, we're getting this tunnel built. Seems to be something you would say after you got a feasibility report and you studied it, and the feasibility report actually said that you could. Because if you get a feasibility report that says you can't, then no matter what, we're getting this tunnel built. Kind of looks like a really stupid statement, doesn't it, buddy? It's like there's putting the cart before the horse, and then there's letting the horse run the whole freaking Kentucky Derby in front of the cart before you try to hitch it.
Well, let's compare and contrast that to the Boston's Big Dig, which planning for that started in 1982. Construction began in 1992 and it was finished in 2006. It's 6 kilometers and it cost $14.8 billion. And again, it's been open since 2006. Now, that being said, what they did in Boston is completely different than what Doug is proposing. Yes, it's a tunnel. Yes, they did this. But what they did was they reunited a neighborhood that had been cut in two by an elevated highway they built in the 40s after the war. They rebuilt the downtown core of Boston. They reconnected and rejuvenated an area. Once the new tunnel was open, they knocked down the old divided highway and they've put in parks. And anybody who lives in Boston says, yes, it was expensive. Yes, it took a long time, but it was very much worth it because it's just so much better now. But they improved things. They didn't just duplicate what's already there, which is what Doug is proposing. And let's not forget, they're spending $16.8 billion to expand GO Train. where's this money coming from this fiscally responsible conservative? Oh, right.
It's the money
Fiscally
he didn't put in
irresponsible.
healthcare.
Yeah. 21 billion cut from healthcare. Yeah, the 401 is the busiest highway on planet Earth, and it's not even a competition.
Yeah. Ford also took a swipe at Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie, who he said was opposed to any project that made life cheaper for Ontario. How's the tunnel making life cheaper?
He's like, well, we lose 11 billion a year in lost productivity because of people being stuck in gridlock. Okay, but it's been what 14 years they've been working on the Eglinton Crosstown.
Yeah. Following the announcement, Crombie said in a post on X that the real question today is which of Doug's rich buddies would benefit from this, because Ontario needs real solutions, not a half-baked back-of-the-napkin scheme to funnel tens of billions of your tax dollars to Doug Ford's cronies, said Crombie. Meanwhile, Green leader Mike Schreiner accused Ford of trying to distract people from the province's ongoing housing crisis and the Progressive Conservatives' government failure to adopt pro-density policies. The Ontario NDP and wow, I'm not sure if that was intentional or whatnot, but it seems that putting the official opposition as the last of the four parties in an article is a little ouch.
Mm-hmm.
We'd
Strange.
usually expect them to come second,
Yeah.
unless they were saving the best for last. The Ontario NDP did not immediately respond to iPolitics' request for comment. Well, that may be why they put them last. A press release from the province said engineering services will be conducted by the Ministry of Transportation with help from Infrastructure Ontario. It was not clear whether the proposal had buy-in from the federal government. In response to a question from iPolitics, Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault said he would, quote, have to see some details before the federal government committed to supporting the tunnel. Earlier this year, Guilbeault made headlines for suggesting the federal government would eliminate all funding for new road infrastructure across the country, though he later clarified that the remarks were exclusively referring to a specific project in Quebec City. Infrastructure Minister Sean Fraser also did not immediately respond for iPolitics' request for comment. Now, this tunnel, the Boston one you were talking about, was how long?
It's about 2.4 kilometers, I think, something like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
This proposed one is 55
Right.
kilometers. So it would be the world's longest road tunnel.
By a big margin. It's double the length of the tunnel in Norway. The tunnel in Norway that started, it took them 5 years to build it. They started it in 95. It was completed by 2000 and opened up in 2000. So that's 24 years ago since it opened. And it cost them $114 million to build it, which is actually really, really cost effective for what it is.
And 5 years was really planning effective.
It's Norway.
It's Norway. You're reading my mind today, my friend. You are reading my mind today.
I have Norwegian friends. Norwegians are like all Scandinavian countries, are similar to Germans is planet, 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 planet. Every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Okay, let's do it. And then they do it with efficiency and safety in mind at all times. And they get it done on time and usually on budget, and in many cases under budget.
So these are the longest tunnels in the world, and the one that Mr. Grizzly is talking about, the Lærdal Tunnel, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, in Norway, is 24.5 kilometers long. The Westconnex Tunnel in Australia is 22. The Yamate Tunnel in Japan is 18. The Zhongnashan Tunnel in China is 18. And the Jinping Traffic Tunnel in China is 17 and a half. So this would be more than double the longest. Now, this one here says 60 kilometers. The other article says 55. So 55 wouldn't be, well, it would still be more than double.
Yeah.
So, but between 55 and 60 kilometers. So that's what he's talking about, not only a tunnel, but a kind of tunnel that has never even been attempted before.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Well, okay. Yes, that's true.
That's not entirely true. There are longer tunnels in this world, but they're aqueducts. They're not designed for human traffic. So there are longer tunnels. I think there's one in upstate New York that's about 80 kilometers, 80 or 90 kilometers. and I'd have to double check on that, but that's designed for water transportation. It's not designed for human beings to be in. It's not a road tunnel. That's different. This would be the longest road tunnel ever attempted, but not the longest tunnel ever attempted. So we just want to clarify that because facts are important.
Yes, road tunnel specifically. But still, it's not been attempted.
No, it has not.
So this is not only, hey, wouldn't it be great if we built a tunnel? This is if we're going to do an engineering feat and a world first, and it's grand.
Yeah, there's two water tunnels there's one, the Delaware Aqueduct built in New York State. Construction started in 1945. It's 85.12 miles long, 137 kilometers. And then there's one in southern Finland that's 120 kilometers. Again, water supply. Now, there is a rail transit line in China that is 86 kilometers, which is different than road. And then the rest are all water supply tunnels for the most part. But there are some long ones. But this one would be simply a tunnel designed for transports, vehicles, and transit. He wants to put a transit thing in there as well. And I'm just like, this would take 25 to 30 years.
Yeah. At the time of the iPolitics article, NDP leader Marit Stiles didn't have a comment, but according to the CBC this morning, it says that NDP leader Marit Stiles is also not convinced. She says, we are looking at years of traffic, chaos, disruption, billions of taxpayer dollars. And if you look at the track record of what happened in Boston, no real improvements to congestion. The Boston Tunnel was finished in 2007. It took 25 years to complete. It was beset with delays and cost overruns, ballooning to $15 billion, making it the most expensive highway construction project in U.S. history.
Mm-hmm.
So, the most expensive highway construction project in U.S. history cost $15 billion for 7 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
This is 55 to 60. We're looking at easily over and inflation since that we're looking at easily over $100 billion project.
Well, here I have a graphic that shows you Boston's. If you look up here, it says system pre and post Big Dig. You can see how the alignment. So that used to be the highway. Now that's a tunnel. They built a tunnel under the highway, knocked the old highway down. You can see realignments, and then they built a tunnel to the airport as well.
Okay.
So yeah, and then the airport tunnel isn't tunneled the entire way. It's just under the harbor, basically. But yeah, you can see it was a lot of work because the I-93, which is now a tunnel, used to be an elevated highway similar to the Gardiner Expressway in downtown Toronto. For those of you who may or may not be familiar, it's an elevated highway. Elevated highways were futuristic looking at the time, and they built them in the 40s and 50s. And hindsight being 2020, it was like, yeah, but it destroys everything at the ground level, and they become derelict quickly because we have Canadian winters to deal with. And although there's no salt water, and although Toronto doesn't get nearly as cold as it once did, 60 years worth of Toronto winters and summers definitely takes its toll.
Yeah. Now, a gentleman named Richard Florida, who teaches at the University of Toronto School of Cities, says that there are practical solutions that exist now for alleviating Toronto traffic, which recent studies show is some of the worst in North America. Quote, I lived in Boston when they made the Big Dig. It was a mess. That said, there are things we can do in the meantime. We make people pay to take the bus or take a subway or a streetcar, but what if we gave them a free ride? In general, there are some roads with tolls, but in general, we subsidize the highways enough of that. So, there are, like, as you mentioned, opening up the 407 right now.
It's an easy fix.
Right? Rather than subsidizing roads, subsidizing transit fares and encouraging more people to take them with more free rides or much lower fares or free. But these are other things that can be done with $100 billion than just building a tunnel. That in a province like this is $100 billion
This is projected.
of
It could be more, could be
projected.
less.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going by the Boston number.
Yes.
Adjust 15 billion for 7 kilometers to inflation today,
Mhm.
I guess, and multiply that by the number of times you need to get from 7 to 55 or 55 to 60. Because
Well, and
we're looking at $100 billion. We're looking at $100 million probably just with the $15 billion price tag.
we also have to understand, that the soil samples, it's like they might have to go, okay, we're going to have to dig really deep for this one because, there's a highway above us. The busiest highway on planet Earth is directly above us. So we're going to have to dig really deep so that we can't create a sinkhole. Like,
I know. It's just, my God. Joe Barrage, who's a partner at a planning firm called Urban Strategies, says that while he questions whether a project this ambitious can actually happen, he does appreciate the thinking around it. Quote, I'm an enormous skeptic about whether you could do this in any realistic budget and any realistic time frame, but I don't want to stop anybody trying to think a little bit out of the box. Ford says the feasibility study will look at the potential costs of construction and as government will be transparent, as we laughed about before. Uh, but yeah, well, uh, it really sounds because there's a whole feasibility study needed. Like this, we're going to reduce congestion. It just sounds like one of those things, Look at me, I'm the visionary.
yeah, that's all
Type
it
thing
wants.
that he knows will really never happen because, well, first of all, it's not like the feasibility study will be in before the next election, right?
No.
So he doesn't have to actually run on it. And then when it comes, well, he can do like he did with the basic income pilot.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. I'll let
I'm
it run
keeping
till
it.
the end and see what it says. And it's like, oh, well,
I changed
not
my
so
mind.
much. I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and right now he's being sued over that. Do you know that?
The UBI thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is it the
Yes.
city of St. Catharines? Or Lindsay. Lindsay was where the
Yes.
pilot project was taking place, and they're suing the Ford government over that because they backed out of the contract.
Yes. This that was came out in March of this year, uh, and I think they may have settled
Oh, have they?
quickly.
Interesting.
I think so. I'm reading this article here. On March 19th, the CBC was reporting that Ontario government was facing a class action suit for abruptly canceling the basic income program.
Mhm.
Um, in a statement on Tuesday, Toronto law firm Cavaluzo LLP said the class action lawsuit brought forward by 4,000 people who took part in the project claims damages for the sudden cancellation in July 2018 by Doug Ford's government. The lawsuit is seeking damages of up to $200 million. As part of the pilot, about 4,000 participants in Hamilton, Lindsay, and Thunder Bay, earning less than $34,000, received just under $17,000 annually. The amount decreased by 50 cents for every dollar an individual earned through work, and couples received a little more than 24,000. People with disabilities received an additional 6,000. Lawyer Stephen Moreau of Cavaluso LLP said the province made a promise to individuals to provide basic income payments for 3 years. When you make a promise like that, you have to keep it. It's a contract, he said. Quote, the government still does business and enters into contracts the way people do. They don't get to change their minds once they've entered into it. That's our allegation. And then, basically we have people saying that the floor was essentially yanked out from under them with this.
Yes.
And at the time, the government was choosing not to comment on the case. But as I'm looking through the things here, on April 21st, which was just over a month later, according to the Globe and Mail, it says that Ontario paid 320,000. Oh, this is the legal fight.
Mm.
Okay, it wasn't a settlement. So yeah, it's probably still in there.
I would think
But
so.
yes, $320,000 in legal fees over its fight. for the cancellation over UBI. And that was, like I said, just 1 month
After he
after.
took office. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Ontario government has paid $320,000 to the law firm spearheading a lawsuit against the Ford government over its decision to cancel. Last month, Ontario Superior Court Justice St. Bale certified the lawsuit filed in 2019 that seeks $200 million in general damages on behalf of 4,000 people. On Monday, lead counsel Stephen Moreau will appear at Queen's Park to urge the government to quit stalling the action. Quote, "Stop fighting, stop delaying, and get down to the business of doing justice and fairness by these people," Mr. Moreau told the Globe and Mail. Let's see what else is in here there. A survey of 424 participants by the Basic Income Canada Network found that these sorts of improvements were widespread. So all the improvements that people feel with the basic income program. 1/3 of respondents reported that the pilot gave them enough money to go to school. 1 in 5 said it funded their transportation to work. Almost 3/4 said they started eating better, and nearly 3 in 5 said they managed to improve their housing. A large majority felt less stress, anxiety, and depression. Quote, "Seeing lots of people being able to go back to school and get into training programs, that was remarkable, but not a surprise to us," said Sheila Rager, a board member of the network. "I think the mental health thing was surprising. The speed at which people's health improved, even we didn't expect that." The plaintiffs in the case argued that the termination amounted to a breach of contract, as reported in the other article. Neither the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, which administered the program, nor the current minister responsible at that time in April responded to the Globe's requests for comment. But yes, so again, $322,000. Now that I know that doesn't fund the UBI program for a long time, but they're happy to spend the money, just so long as they put in the pockets of lawyers rather than yours.
People who desperately need it. And the commentary from the folks who said, it improved people's mental health, we did not expect that. I'm like, well, when you don't have the stress of how am I going to eat? How am I going to get to work? How am I going to pay my rent? Your mental health does improve. Does money make you happier? No, it makes your life easier. It doesn't make you happier, it makes your life easier. And in turn, when you have external pressures that have been alleviated because of that money, your mental health is bound to improve.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Money is convenience. Right? It helps get you out of trouble. Like you said, it makes life easier. Because when you have enough of it, too tired to cook, you have the option of ordering in or eating out.
Yes. And that, that happens to us a lot where you're just exhausted. I can't, the other day that was me. I was too tired to cook. So what did I do? I bought a frozen lasagna.
Yeah. You're, overextended at work, but you got family coming for the weekend. You could hire someone to tidy up the house.
Yes. Little things like that.
It's convenience.
Yes.
If you have it.
It's convenience is what it is. It simplifies your life.
Now, speaking of basic income, yesterday there was a vote.
Yes, how did that
in
turn
the
out?
House of Commons on basic income. Now, there are two things going on in Parliament right now on basic income. It's essentially the same bill, but there was one process that was going on in the House of Commons, and then there was one process that was going on in the Senate. Now, in the Senate, it's being led by Senator Kim Pate, I believe her name is. And in the House of Commons, it's being led by Leah Gazan, again, of the NDP, who we keep on saying almost every time we hear from her, it's usually something positive and it's usually something good. She recently, again, with the Red Dress Alert private members bill, she actually introduced a private members bill and got it passed unanimously.
Which is like, wow.
So if you are in her electoral district, do vote for her, because she clearly has the ability to work across the aisle and get stuff done, because she's in the fourth party, and getting a private members bill passed in the first place is nearly damn near impossible.
It almost
And
never
she did it
happens.
unanimously.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I've been stressing about a UBI, and why I think Lindsay was a good place to start, and I think it should have been expanded across the province. And the ward that I live in downtown Ottawa is the poorest in the city.
Mhm.
Ottawa is a rich city.
Mhm.
There's a lot of money here. There's the largest middle class, I think, in Canada is in Ottawa, because so many people either work for the federal government or work in IT or work in companies that support the federal government or IT. So there's a very large middle class population in this city. I know it. You know it. Anybody who's ever been here knows it. But the ward that I live in is the poorest in the city. So I would love to see a UBI happen here because I know it could help so many people. And maybe with that UBI, we could see some folks who are currently on the streets smoking crystal meth or crack. I don't know which it was. Maybe they could get themselves into a program and get the help they need. But Doug will close those things too. So anything that helps somebody that is less than, that Doug considers to be less than, he's going to cut.
Mm-hmm. So this is a bill that was at second reading.
Mm-hmm.
And if it went ahead, it would be going to committee for discussion, debate. And now, because private members' bills cannot be money bills, this was not a bill to create and fund a UBI and then start getting it out the door. This was a bill to create a framework, to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable income. So all the terms, all the conditions, whatnot, set it all in place so that when somebody wanted to take the project, they could take that and run with it. All they would have to do is fund it. Right? So there was no money at stake here other than the money required to actually do the work of building the framework. But no money going out. It wasn't a budgetary item.
I have something interesting to share.
The motion text says that the bill be now read a second time and referred to the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skill and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Yay votes 54, nay votes 273. The Liberals, the NDP, and the Green Party, 28 Liberals,
mm-hmm.
all of the NDP, and all of the Greens voted for it. Mm-hmm. 120 Liberals, 118 Conservatives, all of the Bloc Québécois, and the 3 independents voted against it.
Interesting.
So the bill pretty much dies. According to, and I do not like this guy, Franco Terrazzano of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, because you have to hear what the other side is saying.
Of course.
So the taxpayers need to stay vigilant and keep pushing back against any such policies. Quote, bad ideas never seem to go away in Ottawa, so taxpayers must stay alert and continue to push politicians to fight against guaranteed income schemes. Politicians should be making life more affordable by cutting taxes and letting Canadians keep more of their own money, except if you make life affordable only by cutting taxes, then you only make life affordable for people that make enough money to be paying taxes.
Correct.
So it does absolutely nothing for those who need it most, which again is the conservative thing.
Well, and let's
the tax
also
cuts need to be directed to the people who don't necessarily need them the most at the current time. Everybody can benefit from them, but who don't need them the most.
And the thing that I keep saying and repeating ad nauseum, if you will, is we're going to have a UBI in the near future due to the fact that, we have, through automation, through self-serve, through robotics, and through AI, we have systems that are completely eradicating jobs, service jobs. Simple service jobs, cash registers at a fast food burger place. There might be 2 registers now. There's almost nobody ever serving because you just go up and walk up to a screen and tap out on the screen, which, by the way, never easy. Never easy to use. They're always complicated. It never scans your code. They're a pain in the butt. But they call it create your taste. Okay. I'm not actually cooking any of the food. But jobs have been eliminated. Jobs are being eliminated through the use of AI, robotics, and automation. Well, if people can't work, they can't spend. Because if you have no money coming in, how are you going to put money out? So we need a UBI, period. And we're going to need it sooner than anybody realizes. I have programmer friends who said, my job won't exist in a few years. I've talked about this before, and I'm not letting it go because it's important that people understand. If you can't work because there's no job, how do you earn money to spend money to buy things like food and clothing and housing? But you've got this taxpayer federation guy saying, well, we got to fight against stupid ideas like this. No, you idiot. Sports Illustrated fired their writing staff and use AI. That's just one example among thousands. Sports Illustrated was known for having some of the best writers in the business. They fired them. Why? Because AI doesn't cost. AI can work 24/7. AI doesn't get sick. AI doesn't take vacations. AI doesn't have babies. AI just works. And what does it cost? Jobs. So what do these people do now to earn a living? Look for a government tax credit, maybe? Well, if their country has one, but in the United States of America, I'm not aware that they do. In Canada, we do. And of course, Pierre Poilievre, who was being grilled just yesterday about why did you vote to provide stimulation funds for Bell Canada, says, no, that's not what happened. I'm like, no, that's exactly what happened. You and the NDP voted to give them $44 million. And now you're slagging on Bell and saying, don't talk to them. But he's the freedom guy, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
You have the freedoms I give you and nothing more.
Yeah.
That's exactly who he is.
Then the Canadian Taxpayer Federation guy continued on. The government is broke and is more than $1 trillion in debt, so this expensive scheme would mean massive tax hikes for average Canadians. It would make it harder for Canadian businesses to find and retain talent because if the government pays people not to work, fewer people will work. Government is not paying people not to work. And here's the bullshit thing, because again, right, when you talk about money like $1 trillion, right, it's so big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But to give a little perspective, Canada's national debt right now is at about $1.240 trillion. So that's $1,240,501,660 right now. Because I'm looking at a federal debt clock. The United States is $35,324,325,476. Right? The U.S. population fits into Canada Canadian population fits in the United States 8.3 times.
Mm-hmm.
If you 8.3 times our national debt, we get to about 10 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is at 35. We're both at G7.
Yeah.
And the United States is not going under.
They can't. They're too big to fail, as the saying goes, right?
But yes. But yes, the number 1 trillion looks like a lot.
And it is.
And
it's
it is
an unfathomable amount of money.
It is a lot. But clearly, there are other countries that have a way higher and heavier debt load by population. And they're doing quite fine. Now, of course, it would be better to not have that, of course. But countries are not businesses and they're not households. The budgets are different. And because countries are assumed that they are going to exist for time immemorial, the timelines are larger.
And the debt to GDP is in Canada, we're in the most favorable position of all.
Yes, of all the G7 nations.
G7 nations, by far.
Right. by
It's
far.
not even close. We're
I know.
way ahead.
Yeah. So again, it's fear mongering based on the fact that they hope that you don't know where Canada sits with regard to our near peer nations
Hmm.
when it comes to debt, comparable debt between nations. Because all of a sudden, it's like, well, if all the nations that we trade with the most and that are more like-minded, whatnot, all have debt that is similar or larger to ours, and all of them are doing well, then why is somebody raising the panic? Maybe that's just the way that business takes place
Hmm.
when you're a country. You know you have a big credit card and you have infinite amount of time to pay it back. Right? And they always make these claims assuming that everything remains completely static and stable. So, when inflation's going up 8.1% like this, oh my God, the interest rate like this, if we continue like this for the next 20 years, we're going to be like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, if we
Hmm.
assume that for the next 20 years, it's like, oh, well, the interest rate is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't make any economic adjustments whatsoever. So I guess we just have to live like this for the next. It's like, of course, you make changes, you make adjustments. We saw it with Christian Martin. We made adjustments. They were painful,
Hmm.
but we made them and they held. So when things get a little out of line, I guess with a little discipline and willingness to accept some pain, you can get back on track. In our lifetimes, we have done it.
Hmm.
We went from being joked about as having a Canadian peso
Hmm.
to less than 10 years later having an economy that was the envy of, oh my God, I wish the other nations were going, oh my God, I wish we had those problems.
Yes.
Right? But it was painful. So we can adjust along the way if situations really change.
Hmm.
Like, we're not bound to do the same things we've always done or just let things happen to us.
Last night, Bridget and I sat down and watched the entire interview on Stephen Colbert with the Prime Minister, and
Yep.
something profound took place. My dyed-in-the-wool orange dipper has considered switching her vote.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. Because she's like,
Okay.
the more I see this man, the more he talks about how much he loves this country and how he wants to help as many people as possible, the more I believe him. And I'm like, you know what? It's not a sales pitch with him. It's genuinely, he wants to make things better for us. He lived in the real world for a little while. Yes, he's got the biggest parachute on planet Earth, compared to the average Canadian. He has the golden parachute. He has his trust fund. He will never have to starve. He will never be in bad shape compared to the rest of us, right? Doesn't mean he's not seen others who have suffered and struggled. So yeah, people who watch that interview, even the ones who went in hate watching it, came away with a difference of opinion. Now, some people, doesn't matter. They won't believe what they see. They only believe what they want to. So it doesn't matter what he says or
Yes.
does. They're always
Justin
going to
Trudeau
hate.
walks on waters. What? He can't swim?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? Like literally, there's people are going to hate him no matter what. And you can't reach those folks because they don't want to be reached. They refuse to listen. They refuse to see the truth. And they will only believe three-word slogan boy.
Yep. And there's nobody more blind than someone who is steadfastly refusing to see, and nobody more deaf than somebody who's steadfastly refusing to listen.
Exactly. Now let's get back to Doug Ford for just a minute here. I have something to
All right.
share about this. I'll put up a few graphics and I'll read them to you because these are interesting. From the Toronto Star, March 16th, 2022, Oleg Deripaska, a metals magnate who is reportedly close to Russian President Vladimir Putin, holds a minority stake in Strawbag. That's the lead company the Ontario government selected in May 2021 to design and dig the tunnels for the Scarborough subway. There's a photo of Oleg with Vladimir Putin. Strawbag awarded a $255 million tunnel contract for Eglinton Crosstown West Extension. February 20th, 2024. Eglinton Crosstown is still not operational. Highway 401 Rail Tunnel Project. Client Metrolinx Infrastructure Ontario. Construction period 2017 to 2021. Contract value 73 million euros. Strawbag, STRABAG, Strabag, I guess, through its Canadian subsidiary was awarded the tunneling contract for Highway 401 underpass tunnels in Toronto. 116 million Canadian dollars. Project was tendered as a design build finance model. Work started in 2017 and reached substantial completion in 2021. Follow the money. So Doug, as David Wallace told us, he gave him back channel access to Russian money and Russian funds and Russian individuals. So how much you want to bet Strabag, I don't know how you pronounce it, will be the tunneler for the 401 tunnel? How much kickback money is going directly to Vladimir Putin? Because I guarantee you, if he's friends with Putin, it's because Putin actually owns him. And he's just the face of the company. And Putin gives him a few $1 billion to keep his mouth shut until he, falls out of a window someday.
Mm. Well, for those who might not be familiar, just a little quick thing. Oleg Vladimirovich Deripaska is a Russian oligarch and billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not made a billionaire through his own money.
No.
Probably. Deripaska enriched himself on previously state-owned assets that were privatized in the aftermath of the collapse of the Soviet Union. He is the founder of Basic Element, one of Russia's largest industrial groups, and Volno-Delo, Russia's largest charitable foundation. He was the president of EN Plus Group, a Russian energy company, and headed the United Company Rusal, the second largest aluminum company in the world, until he quit both roles in 2018. I believe that he was, for a time, politically, the president of the part of Russia that's called Ural. As well. So yes, very, 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 very close. In 2009, Deripaska had been interrogated as a witness in Spain and England and by the FBI about money laundering. He was never charged with any crimes. On the 25th of January 2010, the Financial Times published a story titled Rusal, A Lingering Heat, exploring Deripaska's business relationships with Sergei Popov and Anton Malevsky, alleged heads of Russia's organized crime groups. Deripaska has accused Michael Chernoy of using Malevsky and the Izmailovskaya syndicate to extort $250 million US from him as part of a protection racket. However, Deripaska has himself been accused of having similar links to Malevsky, who, with his brother Andrei, owned a 10% stake in Deripaska's company. Deripaska denies the claims. In 2011, Deripaska and Iskander Makhmudov, head of UGMK, were asked by Spanish police to answer questions in relation to a money laundering inquiry. In November 2011, Spain's High Court sent the criminal case against Deripaska to the Russian General Prosecutor's Office because the root of the cases were Russian. And then it says here, and this is all from Wikipedia, Deripaska is known for his close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Their relationship became visibly strained amidst Deripaska's financial struggles in 2009. In an incident broadcast on Russian television, Putin visited a stalled cement factory owned by Deripaska and berated its management. He forced Deripaska to sign a contract promising to pay nearly $1 million in unpaid wages. Their relationship recovered, however, and Deripaska has been described as Putin's favorite industrialist. That's in quotes. Leaked U.S. diplomatic cables from 2006 described Deripaska as among, quote, the 2 to 3 oligarchs Putin turns to on a regular basis and, quote, a more or less permanent fixture on Putin's trips abroad. In a 2011 interview with the Globe and Mail, Kinross Gold CEO Ty Burt, who knows Deripaska, said, quote, I believe Russia recognizes Oleg's major role in building a renewed economic base in a broad range of domestic businesses and rejuvenating ailing companies and infrastructure. Also has some known ties with Nathaniel Rothschild and Peter Mandelson, Paul Manafort, alleged involvement in Russian interference in the 2016 United States election is also part of there. So yeah.
Greasy.
Denied the allegation. Yes.
Greasy.
But yeah. So he's been around.
Yeah.
Oleg gets around. So, and so apparently there are ties somehow to the Ontario government
Go
as well.
figure.
Interesting. Isn't that special?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving to the other part of the show. Kids and Cubs. Yoo-hoo. Because the little political junkie in me yesterday was happy because it was debate day in New Brunswick. I think it might
Well, that
be
was
the
last
only
night,
one.
wasn't it? Did you
Yeah.
watch it? I
Oh,
completely
yes.
blanked. I was a
Yes.
zombie yesterday.
Yes. I'm not sure if there were two planned, because often in New Brunswick there's one in English and one in French.
Mhm.
So I'm at least two. So hopefully there will be one in French. I don't necessarily haven't actually looked for it either, but I would have assumed yesterday in reading the articles they would have said when there was another debate, and I did not see that. But listen, it was a good. How would I put it? Good. It wasn't exciting in any particular way whatsoever. And how would I put it? I don't think everybody was necessarily told from the get-go where the camera was,
Okay.
because they didn't seem to be looking into the camera and talking to us. They seemed to be looking at the moderators, and sometimes so it would bring their eyes down and to the side a little bit, which makes one look a little sleepy,
Mm-hmm.
if you can tell. So so there was a little bit of that going on, but eventually, people found the range. And it all started pretty, like, very, very listless, because, when they were introducing everyone, usually saying, like, and, from the Liberal Party, we have so and so, and from the Conservatives, we have so and so, and from the Greens, we have so and so. And usually, like, the camera will focus on you, and people will usually go, like, a nod or a smile, or, put I guess, and everybody was just like, just like, look at it's like, you either all look terrified or you all look bored, but like none of the three looked like, yeah, let's do this, let's
Yeah.
debate,
Yeah,
right? It was
I
just
didn't
like,
see any of it, so I don't
yeah,
have.
it was something. And I think, ooh, this is going to be um, a dynamic affair,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't all that dynamic, sadly. So normally debates are not fun to watch because there's so much bickering and all that kind of stuff. This debate did not have any one-on-ones. So it was a topic, you speak, you speak, you speak, you close. If you want to pre-butt or rebut something, you have to do it in your time. But there isn't no, like, I'm going to ask you another question. Okay, now for 2 minutes you go at each other. Like, there was none of that. So it was tidy, it was organized, it was somewhat informative in that sense, because you had to feel the content. You couldn't feel the content with just, bickering, going, no, not, yes, no, you're not, and then wasting 30 seconds like that. If you don't have anything, you actually had to fill your time somehow. But the lack of one-on-one didn't also contributed to not being dynamic. Everyone was on their best behavior,
Mm-hmm.
which is refreshing. Thank you. Nobody imploded. To me, there was a clear winner, but it was by far not a knockout.
Mm-hmm.
So, Premier Higgs delivered a performance I can describe as adequate. He was mostly boring and visibly bored, too. Of the three candidates, he was the one that definitely lost the body language portion of the debate. Many times seeming like he would rather be anywhere else,
Oh,
which is
good.
probably not that far from the truth, actually.
I don't even think he wants the job anymore, to be honest with you. He certainly is not a man whose heart is in it.
He doesn't seem to be, no. He had no passion whatsoever in defending his own positions in his past record. and then there were questions that were asked. They were basically divided the debate into 3 topics. And then for each topic, there was 3 different questions. He didn't answer the questions at all on how many schools he planned to build and how quickly, how he would avoid cuts by taking in $450 million fewer per year in HST revenue. And there was a really cool question in the third part, and was the last official question. And they asked, and it caught some of them by surprise. I don't think they were planning for it. But essentially, with everything that you've accomplished in your lives, what is the one gap in your knowledge that is still there, and how would you work to fill it? And it's like, we'll get a little more to that one later on, but they were not ready for that. It was very obvious they were not ready for that. He finished poorly as well. So if you want to leave a good impression at the end, he just really finished poorly because the section on values was the last of the 3. So there were 3 sections yesterday, as I mentioned. The first one was on health, which is a pretty big issue. And then, oh no.
Did you lose it? It happens.
Please tell me that the notes didn't disappear.
What can I say?
The notes on the debate disappeared. Holy I hate that when that happens to me.
Don't worry.
All right.
You can pivot.
So not pivot. It's just that I don't have the timestamps to show elements of the debate. Darn. I took notes on all the clips, but for some reason it all vanished.
I don't know why that keeps happening to you.
I do not know why.
You must have some sort of
it was there this
gremlin.
morning when I was taking notes to do the show. Then, but yeah, no, they just completely vanished. All right, that's fine. So on with the analysis anyway. Sorry, I won't be able to show you specific clips. In the section about values, the first question was about not so much, I guess you could call them land claims, treaty claims.
Okay.
From 2 indigenous nations in New Brunswick, and the response to that. And Blaine Higgs' response was definitely cringeworthy, but probably played well with his base. Then the second of the 3 questions on values was about the Campaign Life Coalition's anti-trans attack on teachers. There were some flyers that were circulated in the mail, and there are certain mail carriers who had decided that they did not want to deliver them, and one of whom appears to be facing some disciplinary action. One of whom who didn't want to deliver them is also the parent of a trans child. So those flyers contained some rather inflammatory language, and he was not able to denounce anything whatsoever with regard to the language in there or the group Campaign Life Coalition itself, which should just go to show just how beholden he is to the toxic fringe. He actually looked rather painfully weak in that particular section. And then the answer to the question about the gap in his knowledge provoked just a huh. It just didn't make sense. And then his closing was rather listless. So he started adequate, and while he probably will not have lost points with his own crowd, the performance just kept going down and down and down over the course of the evening. He certainly didn't win anyone. Let's put it that way. David Kuhn from the Green Party, as is almost always the case with someone from the Green Party when they show up at a debate, incredibly likable, struck me as earnest and sincere. From him, I also would have liked a little more dynamism. a show that he was actually excited about the plans he had for the province.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Overall, of the three, his answers had the most substance, as is usually the case for the Green candidate on a stage. But it was a little too cute by half on a couple of questions. When asked how many schools he would build and how quickly, he responded, well, the number to meet the demand, which is a commitment that I will build the schools that are needed to be built, but we're looking for a number-ish.
He's building how many hospitals, according to him?
Yeah. And the question, well, David Kuhn isn't building any. He's the leader of the Green Party, right? And the question inquiring about the gap in his knowledge, I think you could tell he was not ready either, but because he was saying, I've been doing this, and every time I do this, I learn something every day. So I'm always open to learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So again, it's not a bad answer, right? But it's not the answer to the question, right? It's not like name a part in your knowledge that you do not know, something that you don't know enough about, and how will you get to know more about it? So it was more like, well, I'm always open to learning. So, okay, nice, positive, but not a direct answer to a direct question here. He was particularly
key, apparently.
Yes. He is particularly strong on substance when discussing safe consumption sites, indigenous title claims, building more affordable housing, and the future of small hospitals. Like he literally did seem to have something. Elizabeth Warren, like that. Not saying like I have a plan for this, but says we can do this, we have to integrate this way. We have to. I guess he was talking actual policy, actual measures that can be put in place, and on several topics and several subjects. You could tell he had thought about it, and had discussed it with other people and had worked it and thought about it some more and worked it some more and then came up with something. So these were polished ideas.
Right.
They're not like, hey, what if we built a tunnel?
Not a Danielle Smith. What if
we took apart the fifth best health agency in the entire world to do something else with it? What's the worst that could happen?
Off to the highest bidder.
Yeah. Now, after listening to the debate, I would want to know more about his leadership style and his party's platform. So to me, that's an indication that he did very well. So if you're a New Brunswicker and you definitely don't want to vote Blaine Higgs again, if you have, or not considering at all, but you can't bring yourself to vote Liberal, there might be actually something to look into with David Kuhn and go research him more and find out and ask him some questions, show him about some events. Because my curiosity was piqued, and I definitely said, he deserves to cast a fully informed vote. You should really go look at to see more deeply what it is that he has on offer, especially if you're the type of person that said, well, the Greens can never win and whatnot, because he might actually hold the balance of power.
Well, and remember, folks.
So go find out.
Remember, this is important for you to remember because they've been off-branded by the Conservatives. The Green Party is just progressive Conservatives that care about the environment. It's all they've ever been from day one. They're progressive Conservatives who care for the environment. Elizabeth May worked for Brian Mulroney. I mean, this isn't new, but somehow they got branded as the extreme left, tree-hugging Green Party decades ago, and it's stuck. And the weird part is they've done very little to push back from that image. And I can never figure out why.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've always had a full platform, right? Because the whole thing was like, the environmentalists and radical left, like this, but also one issue party. And they have a full platform. Again, we don't talk about this enough, but the Green Party of Canada has actually existed longer on the political scene in Canada than the current version of the Conservative Party of Canada. Right? It's a serious party. Because, yes, it only has a few seats. Yes, it gets not a decent amount of votes, but it's diffuse all around the country, which under first past the post doesn't help it very much. That's why they are so much more pro-proportional representation, because they would actually have number of seats that reflects the amount of votes. But we don't have a national vote, right? We have 338 mini elections.
Correct.
Right. So it's just not how we're organized. But, for, like I said, they've existed longer than the current iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada. Because you have to consider that everybody says Tories again like this, and we wish they'd stop, because the Conservative Party of Canada is an entirely new entity
Correct.
like this. They can't bank on the past of the progressive conservative tradition. They are not them.
No,
One
they
of the
never
first
have been.
things they did was take the word progressive out of the name to show that we are not them.
Well, what did
And anybody from the past party, Peter MacKay, he got it in the kidneys. Aaron O'Toole, he got it in the kidneys. They purged all of that.
Yes, because as Aaron O'Toole described them, he says, we're social conservatives. I'm like, what the hell is that?
It's a new party.
They're the Reform Party under a different name. That's all they are.
Right. So Susan Holt. Now, I was trying hard to be objective because of the three. She is the one that we know the most because
Correct.
she agreed to come on our show, right? And we were very impressed with the interview.
Yes.
Yes. And we were impressed with her before. That's how we invited her to come on, because we were impressed. So she actually started out a little shakier than I had expected, given the level of dynamism I know she possesses, because the interview with us was super engaging. Right? She sidestepped answering the opening question about whether she would allow more safe injection sites simply by implicitly suggesting there's nothing to decide upon because she's aware of no applications for new ones or plans to expand those that exist. She did, however, in the answer about that, raise the issue of residential treatment facilities, which had been promised and seems have not been built at all. By the third question in the first topic, she appeared to have found her footing and to be looking more into the lens of the camera, which was a very good thing, because of the three, she was the one that looked the sleepiest. She was the shortest of the three as well, so depending on the camera height, her eyes were already lower, and it just made her look like, it made her, if a camera is here, how far your eyelids go down is different than if the camera's down. I can't do it because my camera's above me.
Yes.
But so it makes them look longer and makes the whites of your eyes look smaller, and then it makes you look like you're a little sleepy or that you lack energy as well.
So me.
At one point you could distinctly tell, like, she was answering the moderators. When she was answering the questions, her head was turned that way, and you can see by about like the second or third question, she found where the lens was directing things a little bit more to the person watching at home. Because what you have to do in a debate like this, you have to make sure that you take some time to look at the people you're debating with like this, to acknowledge them like this, but you need to deliver some stuff, like most of the time, directly to the camera, because it's the people at home you're talking to.
Yes, you need to stare into the camera lens from time to time to get your point across and look at the people you're talking to so that they know you're talking to them.
Yeah. Now, there was a stumble in the second topic with regard to the fact that the Premier Higgs claimed she had stated incorrectly something regarding the number of schools he was building. He mentioned, she had mentioned that, that this government was only building 2 schools this year. Now there are other things to that, but this was something a point that she was making very often, right? You said that there would be these residential treatment centers. They're not there yet. You said that there would be these collaborative health centers. You said that you would build 4 of them, one in Fredericton, St. Stephen, those places. It's 6 years later. Not one of them is built yet. You said, so she would point out these things as well, what he did not do, what he did not accomplish. Now, it was the second time that he had accused her of making a misstatement, and he didn't do it in the Pierre Poilievre way, where he was a total dick about it. And he says, I don't know where you got that number from like this, but, we're actually building 6 schools this year and renovating 4 others. So maybe it doesn't matter. Like, he was kind of going to, like, maybe the reason for that mistake is because he decided not to go there. And, try to speculate on the reason for which that was there. I think, and you can note it, you saw it in her body language that she took the note like this, and then she actually wrote something down after that. I don't know if that gave her a jolt, but from that point on, she was unstoppable. So the first half of the debate was like this, and twice, Blaine Higgs says, "You got a fact wrong." There, so two little stumbles. But then, oh my God, it was just like you're thinking, "Oh, Susan," and I don't know what happened. But then they got to the question about building more housing, and she frickin' nailed that answer. But I knew she would because it was how great her video was. The video I saw that got me to invite her on the show was the video for her plans for housing.
Right.
So, and we had her on the show in December and in January. So, and her position was super polished then. So clearly it's going to be only more so when you get to the debate. So that was like the question. It was like Kamala Harris and the debate, because the second question was abortion. It says, that's my ground.
There we go. Yeah,
like this, and there we go. Well, hers didn't come the second question of the debate. It came the fifth question of the debate. But boom, that one she was ready for. And she nailed her answer. She sounded like she had a concrete plan, that she knew what she was speaking of. She had a plan for affordability that was clear and understandable as well. And then when we got to the third section of topics, which was the one on values, well, then she just landed the punches. And again, I would have loved to have a little more dynamism so that, like, when the punches landed, you'd go, "Oh," right? If you're watching at home. But it was like, I was going, "Ooh," because I could recognize the punch. I'm not sure everyone, and again, I'm a political junkie, but I'm not sure everyone at home would go, "Ooh, she nailed him there." But the premier was completely awkward in trying to get through the question about the Campaign Life Coalition's involvement in the election. And she seized on that because she was talking after him. And then when she was asked the question about the gap in her knowledge, and she was the first one to answer that of the three, she literally said, "Ooh, my, that's a tough question. I'd have to think about it a little." And then she went in and started talking about her resume. And about halfway through that, she figured it out. And it's not like she was talking and says, "Oh, I figured it out." So she finished her sentence and then linked it. So I guess I would have to say, given all my personal experience, if there's one place I have a gap, it would be in labor relations and dealing with unions. And then she went on to develop on that. So she was caught off guard by the question, found a way to start answering, found a very smooth way to work in certain elements of her resume, thought of the answer that was substantive and a direct answer to the question while she was trying to buy some time by smoothly putting in her resume, tied in the actual answer, naturally flowing from what she was saying about her resume, and actually provided a substantive, meaningful, direct answer to the question. Which was followed by David Kuhn saying, "Well, I'm a lifelong learner," and then Blaine Higgs giving a answer. So because she really set the tone, she raised the bar so high. The other two's answers, David Kuhn's answer, which I would have said, "Oh, well, it's sort of like a weasel out like this," but yeah, it's a decent answer, looked weaker as a result because hers was so strong, and Blaine Higgs just looked terrible. And that was the last answer to the last question. And then he had a listless closing. And when she arrived at her closing, above the rest, head and shoulders, she had the best formulated closing pitch. She actually did pitch herself. And because she spoke last in the closing statements, she got to leave the final impression. And relative to the other two, she nailed it. Now, it was a very short debate. It was only about 45 minutes. So hopefully people stayed for the end because, a lot of people check out after the first 10, 15 minutes. If they did not see her at her best. But those who stayed, whoo, man. So Mr. Higgs could have done more, but for him, it was an overall a neutral event. Mr. Kuhn acquitted himself very well, well enough to have people who are truly undecided want to learn more about him. And Miss Holt was, as I say in life, be the tortoise. She was the tortoise.
Mm-hmm.
And slow and steady as fast, and nailing the final 4 questions and the closing, she literally sprinted to the finish line relative to the other 2. Still, overall, everybody lacked dynamism. Everybody. Like this, nobody seemed to be particularly enthusiastic
That's
about what it
usually
is that they had to
typical
offer.
of the first debate, though, I find. Nobody's got their footing quite right.
Yeah.
And first debates are always like that, I find. It doesn't matter what what party, what politics, what country, what provincial or federal, U.S. I find first debates are always like that. Nobody has their footing. And they're a little nervous, maybe a little uncomfortable, maybe a little anxious. I think there's a lot of things at play there. And that's kind of atypical of your average first debate. Now, do we get to see a second one? Who knows?
Mm-hmm. But on this one, Susan Holt's party and team,
Mm-hmm.
if they were feeling last night that they had done well, they should have. They should be happy
Mm-hmm.
overall with the performance. Could there have been more? Absolutely. Said, could have been more energetic. Could she have sold it more? Yes. Clearly, she won this, but Higgs was so listless and seemed
He
so
doesn't
not to want to be there that she could have, I believe, just knocked him out. That there was the opportunity.
I wonder if he's like that because he's convinced he's just going to win, or if he just doesn't give a damn anymore. Like, I mean, he looks like a man who doesn't care. So does he not care because he knows he's going to win in his mind? Or does he not care because he's just tired and just doesn't want to do this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the state is. I don't know what the situation is in regards to that, but I think time will tell.
Here you go, Mr. Grizzly. I will be able to show one clip here because I was able to find one while you were talking. So the particular question here that I'm talking about the gap in their knowledge. Let's just play out this section. And
just give me a sec here while I get it queued up.
I'm glad this worked out, actually, because when you were talking, I was able to bring it up, and because I remembered around where it was, I was able to find it pretty quickly. So, kids, we are going to get some visuals.
Here we go.
Look at me go.
Question, Jacques.
This is the final question, starting with Ms. Holt. You all have a range of experience in your careers, but could you each please tell us about a gap in your knowledge that you've identified, something you feel you still need to understand better, and how you plan to do that, starting with Ms. Holt for 90 seconds.
Oh, well, that's an interesting question, and so I'm going to have to take a minute to think about it, because I've been fortunate to have worked in the private sector, to have led not-for-profit organizations, to have worked in government as a bureaucrat, and have seen how all those pieces fit together. I've worked in every corner of New Brunswick, and I've worked all over the world in different environments and in different cultures. I think maybe the one thing that I haven't done that I'm looking forward to learning, because it's going to be critical to moving forward, is work in a unionized environment and with labor relations. It's going to be critical that we improve labor relations in the province, because we have key relationships with teachers, with nurses, and with many others. And we've never seen the state of labor relations as bad as it is in New Brunswick right now. And so I don't have experience sitting down at those negotiating tables and working in unionized environments, and I'm eager to learn from both the expertise in the civil service and the people of New Brunswick who can support us doing that, because we need free and fair bargaining. We need workers to have their rights respected, and we need to be creating the conditions for people in New Brunswick to thrive. we rely heavily on a number of employees that are in unionized environments. And we hear from labor that they don't have a good relationship with this government, who eliminated the labor table that was a collaborative space where leaders came together to talk about priorities. And when they want to fight for appropriate wage increases like the folks at 1190 are looking for, they get a government that is not interested. So that's one gap that I'm looking to fill in my experience to best serve New Brunswickers.
Thank you. Mr. Kuhn, 60 seconds, please.
Well, I'm learning all the time. You know, as I travel the province, I learn things every day from people I meet, from people working in the school system, from people working in the health system, from people working in business, from people who have their own businesses, from people working in the labor sector, and on and on. I'm a lifelong learner, and you often don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And I love that. I love learning new things, and it really comes down to, are you open to learning new things? And are you listening? And I'm a great listener, and I'm a great learner, and that informs my work in the Legislative Assembly, my work on behalf of my constituents over the years in a way nothing else does. And I treasure those opportunities that do come to you daily in this work. So there's always lots to learn. And I continue to learn, and I put that to good work.
Thank you. Mr. Higgs, you have 60 seconds.
Real leadership is not easy. Every decision is not yes. And yes, it is tough to say no, or to make decisions that matter. Our province is excelling because we've made decisions that matter, and we know how to do that. And yes, it's not always the friendliest way to do it, but it's the way that's necessary, and everyone has to understand it's not government as usual. It's not government as it always used to be. It's government based on looking for the next generation and how we make it better. And I do have a lot of experience in dealing with, in negotiating, but measuring results and seeing if we're not getting those results, how do we do better? How do we create a different model, a different contract, a different incentive, a different program that sees results? Because it's not about how much money you spend for the same thing. It's about what can you get value for taxpayers' dollars with something better. But what have I learned, which is really a solid point for me, I guess, a solid point, is the people living on the street that has grown dramatically, living on drugs with no future, and the care they need and compassion they need to find a future and find hope.
Thank you. That's your time. And Ms. Holt, back to you for 30 seconds.
Well, I think it's interesting taking in what the Premier just said as he talked about trying to get results, when it seems that's a lesson he hasn't learned in government over these last years. We've watched his team abandon him. More than 12 MLAs quit the PC team because they didn't appreciate his leadership that showed that he couldn't learn. We're out there on the doors every day, knocking on the doors of New Brunswickers and learning from them, because every door you knock on has a New Brunswicker that has a different experience than yours. Being able to listen to them and then translate that into a team of people acting for New Brunswickers is critical.
Thank you, Ms. Holt.
That concludes the question.
So, yeah.
He didn't. Blaine Higgs didn't really answer the question. He tried to come up with something at the very end there, but he didn't answer the question at all.
But he said, "What I learned."
Yeah.
Right. What I learned was, how about, I guess, from the homeless people and whatnot, how I had to learned about compassion and whatnot. And I turn around and I did this, and it's like, but those things, those metrics, those things, that evaluation thing that you just said, you don't do it because all throughout this debate, I pointed out that you didn't get the collaborative health care centers built, that you didn't get the residential treatment beds built, that you didn't get schools built. You didn't get,
We have a
you
concept
didn't
plan.
do it.
Yeah.
You did like this. So if you had a plan to do these things, I guess, and you say that your specialty is being able to make those adjustments and do the evaluations, and you had a plan to do these things and you didn't get them done, that I would assume that somewhere along the way during the plan, something was working right, and you missed it in your evaluation because you didn't make the adjustments required to get them done.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't sit there and then brag about your ability to do the thing that you showed no evidence of doing. If that's a skill, that's like saying, hey, I'm a great hockey player. I can always put the puck in the back of the net, but I have a dry spell for the last 7 games. It's my first 7 games. It's like, really, you could put the puck in the back of the net, eh?
We need to see it. We need results, please and thank you.
No, really, I know how. Uh-huh. Sure,
Take your word
Jan.
for it. You know how, but you haven't done it yet.
Sure, Jan.
Knowing one thing and doing it are two different things.
Just like, oh God, it it was it was not good.
No.
It was
I mean,
not.
you can tell he's a polished politician in the sense that he didn't stumble or stammer at all, but he didn't answer the question. He just spun in circles.
Yeah, it was, and all the things that I mentioned, like you could see Susan Holt, um, in this particular answer, you could see that her eyes were a little sideways, looking more
Mhm,
at the moderators, but her head was up at least so you could see her whole face,
mhm,
and there was some of that, you know, inflection and everything in her voice that was very, very that you needed for this. And then you could see because how she waved all those elements in and actually answered the question and answered it well. That David Kuhn.
mhm.
So you could see how, like in a normal debate or usual debate, if she hadn't nailed that answer, like knocked it clear out of the park, how his would have been an acceptable,
Mhm.
middle of the road, kind of safe, no big risk answer, right? But comparatively to what she put in, I mean, that was not
Night and
going.
day.
It was night and day. And then the other guy, this who has a reputation for, I don't need your damn data, can't identify one single part in his knowledge where he had a gap that he still needs to fill, and ended it with what I've learned rather than what I've yet to learn. You literally illustrated the thing that caused those 12 members of your party to leave you. They all said it was the my way or the highway show. I have all the answers. I don't need your damn expertise. And then
It's
you're asked, what do you still have to learn? And you are not humble enough to admit that there is something that you still have to learn.
This comment from Linda M. is brilliant. White men of his age and conservative bent don't usually think that they have anything they need to learn. I would agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm. Now, I gave you another timestamp, Mr. Grizzly. This is the question on relationships with indigenous communities over the tribal claims, the title claims, I should say. And here I would like to show
Moving
it
on to
because this is where David Kuhn shines the most in the
our
debate.
final theme, values.
Mr. Kuhn, the province is facing two major title claims by the Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq nations that could be in court for many, many years. Another option would be to reach a settlement. If you were in charge, what would a settlement look like? And you have 90 seconds.
If I were in charge, we would be negotiating on Aboriginal title in this province with the Wolastoqey people, the Passamaquoddy and the Mi'kmaq, just as has happened in other provinces, in Quebec, in British Columbia, for example, where through hard, tough, long, but fair negotiation, they reached agreements around Aboriginal title, and we've seen it most recently in Haida Gwaii and the Queen Charlotte Islands, as we formerly knew them. We've seen it in northern Quebec with the Quebec Cree in the past. We've seen it with numbers of First Nations in British Columbia where they also never ceded or surrendered land. So we need to live by the treaties we've signed, and that means figuring out how to best share the land, and we need to negotiate those Aboriginal title claims, not litigate on them. That's going to serve nobody. It's going to cost a bloody fortune. So we need to roll up our sleeves, get down to business, and talk and negotiate around the table. That's how we're going to solve this. But it does have to begin from a perspective of respect for Indigenous peoples, respect for First Nations, and a recognition that we are treaty people. We have legally binding treaties to abide by, and neither Liberals or Conservatives have been living up to our obligations under those treaties, and a Green government would.
Thank you. Mr. Higgs, you have 60 seconds.
Firstly, to distinguish the legally binding treaties would be the reserve land that was once promised to the First Nations communities, and speaking of New Brunswick, and which has been eroded over the years. And we absolutely support the return of that. In fact, we're intervening in one case to support Elsipogtog in their claim that their reserve land had been depleted over the years. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that was not unceded territory, and it was not ceded territory, excuse me. And the idea is that we do not have that as a treaty right, and our entire province is being claimed as for ownership by the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseets. This is unique in Canada. This is very unique. And the situation here is they want the property value, they want taxes to come to them as such rather than the provincial government, taxes that we use for everyone. So there's a big distinction between reserve land that was taken away and then a lawsuit that's affecting the entire province. So if you want someone that is actually going to get to the bottom of this and ensure that people in this province, private citizens, are respected and we find a way path forward, we're doing that.
Thank you. Ms. Holt, you have 60 seconds on this.
Thank you for the question, Jacques. It's been really difficult to watch the state of First Nations relations in this province under a Higgs government. We have fallen behind with a government who does not want to listen, who does not want to come to the table, and who doesn't want to treat First Nations in this province with respect. When I heard that the news of the breaking of the tax agreements came from a conference call into a meeting of chiefs where the Premier got on the phone, said he was cancelling the tax agreements, and hung up with no forum for discussion, this is the core problem that we have to address. A Holt government would get out of the courts and get to the table to negotiate and work with First Nations to find a path forward that is in the best interest of everyone. And we can look around and learn from our neighbours, because even industry is taking a leadership position here that Premier Higgs refuses to follow, where we have industry developing partnerships with First Nations to the best interest of everyone who's trying to advance projects across this country. Yet here in New Brunswick, we're falling behind because of someone for whom it's his way or the highway.
Thank you.
So, and then Mr. Higgs has a final statement there. But as you can see, Mr. Kuhn was prepared, spoke from a nation to nation negotiation perspective, clearly indicated that he understood the culture. Blaine Higgs, as you can see, the answer is cringeworthy, but you can see how his base would love that.
Well, you hear what he has to say, and he goes, they want to take over our entire province. This has never happened in Canada. Can I remind everybody of treaty territory?
Yeah.
We're just looking at the number of treaties here that starts, in Northern Ontario, sweeps right across the prairies. All prairie provinces, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, 100% of which is treaty land. 100% numbered treaty territory land. So he's just spinning hot air when he says that. Never been done in Canada. They're trying to take over our province. Dude, we should send him that map.
Yeah. Now there's one last section I want to show you, and it's the one about the Campaign Life Coalition. And you'll see how Mr. Higgs has a real problem with this question. There'll be 4 interventions because they each go 3 times, and the one that starts gets to do a closing summation.
I don't have a timestamp for that, though.
Sorry. 3328. I forgot to click send, kids.
Give me a minute.
Because apparently I'm still new here. I'm partner in the lodge, and I've only been doing this for 3 years and something, but I'm still new here.
All right, let's have a look at this.
A Campaign Life Coalition has sent out flyers that claim that some teachers want to facilitate a student's sexual transition without their parents knowing. Under current New Brunswick policy, that can't happen. We know that your party has no connection to these flyers, but will you acknowledge clearly that they present misleading statements to voters?
I think you certainly stated we have no connection to that group whatsoever. And the claims that they make, I mean, are their opinions. That's what we see from many folks is their opinions. I mean, this controversy that arose from basically a policy that would suggest that parents should know what's happening in the schools and should be consulted in many ways and give their consent to minor-age children and the decisions being made, which we find that is certainly relevant today in every other aspect of what they do. So there are many people that will come out in the sense that whether I agree or whether I don't agree to what they say, because I've had it through my campaigns in the past with different unions that would come out and make all kinds of statements about me. We've heard it here today, statements that are made that are, in my view, very flippant, but maybe a soundbite that could be used later. So for me to say, do I disagree or agree with any of them or all of them, I just want to say that it's the free speech that's happening there that is not related to what either I agree with or don't agree with, and it's not related to any activity that I am pursuing.
Yeah.
It's a free speech issue. It's only their opinions that is not related or is related to anything about.
Yeah, wasn't he campaigning with Fatine Grasecci?
Say my name, say my name. Can't say their name, can you?
No.
Can't say I denounce it, can you? If nobody's at home with you when I'm calling you, honey, why can't you say my name? And why do you just say me too rather than I love you?
Yeah.
Is it maybe because they're there right beside you listening?
They're in the room with you, aren't they?
What you doing with that other hand that you got me on speakerphone?
Okay. Let's roll. Let's roll.
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. Ms. Holt, you have 60 seconds.
Well, it's really disappointing to hear that the Premier refuses to condone the postcards or even acknowledge the fact that they attack teachers here in New Brunswick. But this is par for the course for him because he himself has attacked teachers in New Brunswick, saying that they're teaching kids to lie in our schools, saying that he wouldn't send his kids to public school today. I would like to see a Premier who is responsible for our education system defend the teachers who are working under extremely challenging circumstances today. And I have 3 kids in the school system. I'm very fortunate that we have amazing teachers that reach out to my husband and I to let us know what's going on, that we have open dialogue and conversation. These teachers are doing the best they can to keep parents informed, even though they aren't being given the resources they need to succeed in classrooms that are full of students without enough teachers, resource teachers, school psychologists, without enough space, without clean air. We have a Premier focused on distractions and not focused on the outcomes we want from our educational system, which is literate kids who can thrive.
Thank you, Ms. Holt. Mr. Kuhn, you have 60 seconds.
Well, clearly these flyers are vilifying teachers, just as Mr. Higgs has done. Teachers have never felt so disrespected in this province. They do their best to create a circle of love and care around their students and help them reach their full potential and ensuring that they can learn what's necessary. This is not recognized by Mr. Higgs. This is not recognized by these vile pamphlets. And Mr. Higgs seems to be quite comfortable with these pamphlets circulating. He hasn't condemned them, as we have, and he should if he thinks they're a problem. Mr. Higgs has thrown teachers under the bus. He's refused to apologize to teachers for doing that. There are big challenges in the education system, and Mr. Higgs has gone looking for problems where they don't exist. He's not a problem solver. He's a problem creator. And that's exactly what he has done with the changes to Policy 713.
Okay, and let's play how Higgs finishes it off.
Okay.
He has a chance to try the last 30 seconds
Redeem.
to try and save it.
I really like this this gentleman from the Green Party.
Right? But you can see with his voice and his manner of speaking that, hey, everyone, I got a great plan. That's not in his internal hardwiring.
No.
Right? But if he had a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think he could do well. He seemed like a decent human being. And I like what he had to say, although Susan Holt did nail him on that. I mean, he nailed that one.
Get the number of that truck.
Yeah.
Mr. Higgs for 30 seconds.
Well, I certainly don't call the role of parents as inconsequential or insignificant, which seems to be the position of my colleagues. I find it really shocking that the discussion around parents and involvements with their minor age children is such a debate. I certainly agree that there's an opportunity that our system in education needs to change dramatically. We need teachers' voices to do that, not political voices. We need to get back to the basics in the classroom. And we've seen an exodus of people leaving our classroom. We need to find a way to get kids back to the learning that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. That's your time. And on to our next question.
Oh, girl. No.
Yeah,
Oh, that was bad.
it was really bad.
That was so that's why I was saying that was the before last question.
Mhm.
So the before last question and then the last question was the one on the gap in his knowledge. So you could, like I say, it was just going down, down,
Yeah.
down. Do 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 do. Sorry, it's New Brunswick. I had to throw in a little rock lobster. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know what you were doing there for a minute.
A rock lobster down,
Yeah,
down,
I get it now. I get it.
You're the music guy.
I didn't know what song you were going with there. The bass line
So
was wrong. That you didn't sing the dings correctly.
no, okay, yes, I missed the dings.
There you go. There you go. Now I recognize it.
See, it's all in the dings.
And you got to sing the dings.
Yes, and maybe the ding-a-lings. Sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like I said, Susan Holt's sort of going after Blaine Higgs in that answer there was about as animated as it got.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
So, calm, steady, not a lot of talking over each other, best behavior. Those who wanted to bring substance were able to give some substance. Those who wanted to avoid some substance, well, it's like you've got 90 seconds to answer this, and nobody's going to interrupt you at any time to say anything. So, if you don't got anything, I hope you can skate
Yeah. Well,
because you need to fill the time. So yeah, he did not. I have a feeling that Mr. Higgs was not as prepared as he could
mhm.
have been,
Oh, yeah.
because these are the Campaign Life Coalition question is one he should have expected.
You
That he
should
should have had an answer pre-written, right? Crafted,
at least be
that he
prepared.
had practiced in front of a mirror, 30, 40 times and
Mhm.
could just spit out. And yes, it would have looked like he went into robot repeat mode. Oh yes, I have rehearsed this answer, but here it is. But had something rather than that.
Yeah.
There are times on controversial issues that you take the hit of looking like a robot to make sure that you had thought about this before and
Mhm.
put some thought in like this, and that you only want to say what it is that you want to say and nothing more, nothing less, and stick within certain very bound, especially if you're going to do something like he did, like not wanting to denounce
Right.
like this. He could have at least said something
No, he wasn't
about
gonna
our
do that.
teachers do really good work, even though everybody would have saw that was insincere based on past behavior. Or he could have said something about how much he does care about those kids, and he's really sorry, that they had to be exposed to that, or that families had to be
No,
exposed to that without condemning it. It's like, I'm sorry you had to be exposed to something that did not make you feel good about yourself. Does not necessarily say, but they shouldn't have done it, right?
Mhm.
He could have tried to pivot that way to show that, he had some kind of empathy chip.
No, he doesn't. Clearly doesn't. Clearly doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. The
All right, we
Kid
gotta
Bio go, that's the face of a man who knows he just soiled himself in terms of answering that question.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotta wrap it up. But
Yep.
before we go, I have a clip for you, from our friend JB.
Ooh.
This is
Yes.
from, I think this was yesterday, actually. And just watch this.
International leaders on fighting climate change, on solving global crises, on standing up unequivocally for Ukraine.
Colleagues, just as I said before, just as I said earlier, I would ask all members to please not take the floor unless they're recognized by the speaker, so that we can hear the questions and we can hear the answers. The Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, don't worry, on this side of the House, we're used to casual homophobic comments from the other side of the House. Mr. Speaker, what is it about the...
so they mute it while he has a conversation.
Yeah. Now, the comment that it's Garnet Genuous for those who are listening, that was sort of said, and we only see visual because somebody else was filming at the time. It says, did you engage him in the bathtub?
Colleagues, I heard comments that because it was not on microphone, I chose not to get up. I would ask, nonetheless, that we all treat each other with the presumption of honor and respect. And I'll ask the Prime Minister to please withdraw that comment and to start his comment again under the colleagues. I heard a comment, as I said, which I could not stand up because I did not know who said it. But we should be. But colleagues, I don't appreciate when we would tar the entire members with that concern. And I'm going to ask the honourable member, please, to withdraw that comment, start his question again, and let us presume the better natures of all members of Parliament here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top.
Mr. Speaker, standing up to bullies requires us to call them out on their crap sometimes, and that's what I will do.
Can we get a rewind of the Prime Minister's face as he sat down? Because that he was feeling that one.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was mad.
Okay. Yeah. Yikes. Okay. Now, people are referring to it as a gay slur. I don't think did you engage him in the bathtub is a gay slur.
But it's from Garnet Genuous.
Well, I mean, it's like it's not a slur, right?
No.
The F word, you know, the P word, and all those are slurs. It's not a slur, but it's certainly not commentary becoming of someone who apparently has the name or the honorific honorable in front of their name in the House of the People, for sure. And it's probably comments that, well, again, if my mom were there, she would grab you by the ear and pull you and go, now you apologize.
Oh, yes.
So, but yeah, Garnet Genuous, Mr. Conversion Therapy, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Making that type of comments we've come to expect. Like this, the Prime Minister wasn't wrong. We're used to casual homophobia like that from that side of the bench, which of course the Speaker says, well, you know, that's kind of unparliamentary language to describe the entire side.
He didn't
of the
withdraw
bench
it, though.
as casually homophobic. I think it went on maybe, and then because I think he told Pierre at one point, I will withdraw it if something, but not enough to get him kicked out of the House. But since we're talking about the Prime Minister, something that, what's that, Mr. Grizzly? You put something up?
A man who fears being seen as feminine is a man who fears being treated the way he treats women.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And just wanted to put this before we go, because while they are attacking the Prime Minister, this happened, and it didn't get a lot of press.
Oh.
Just going to say, if you'll put the image up. But while the Prime Minister was at the UN, President Zelensky was there as well, and they had a meeting. And during that meeting, President Zelensky presented our Prime Minister with the Order of Freedom, Ukraine's Order of Freedom, at the UN General Assembly in front of everyone.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to read this from the Canadian press. Or is it just a picture? It seems. Oh, accept all. I have to do that type of thing. All right. Yeah, it seems to be just. Oh, okay. It's a video clip. Sorry. Well, that would explain why. So I will put it there for you to put on, Mr. Grizzly. It's just a minute and a half. But yeah, the Prime Minister. You have to understand again that remember when we talked about NATO and our commitments to NATO, even though Canada is farther behind in reaching the 2% on the specific mission item that is Ukraine, other than the United States, Canada is the second largest contributor.
Correct.
By decree of the President of Ukraine, for outstanding personal contribution into strengthening interstate cooperation, supporting state sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, the Order of Freedom is awarded to Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada.
Great honor for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
And for a lot more things that you did with your team and with all the Canadians. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support and big help. You're a great friend of us.
Thank you, Volodymyr, but I accept this only on behalf of all Canadians who have been as steadfast as you would want. We support you. We stand with you in this fight that is your fight, but that is all of our fight for democracy, for sovereignty, for territorial integrity. This is an honor, and I accept it.
So notice that the Prime Minister accepted the award on behalf of all Canadians, not on behalf of conservatives or
Or
liberals.
liberals or green, yeah, all Canadians. Yeah.
Yes. And one more prize Pierre won't be getting.
You know he's got it. You know he's jealous.
Mm-hmm. See, Colbert one night, the Order of Freedom from Ukraine the next night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What else has the Prime Minister up his sleeve for the next few months?
I don't know.
Grab
But
your popcorn, kids.
time will
It'll
tell.
be interesting. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So maybe tell your peeps and poops all about us. That would help. We love it when you do. And if you would like to make sure you don't have to miss an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl. Because if you scan that QR code that just appeared, well, that will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it slides directly to you, casually, fashionably, but it arrives. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine, who is right on time. Thank you, my dear. Have a beyond awesome day, everyone. And remember to smash the button before you leave, if you haven't already. Because Elaine also reminds people during the show that if you smash the button now, you don't have to remember to do it later. Yeah. Sometimes you get a little busy hugging it out. Forget to smash the button. Do it early. We're all for early smashing. But if you go to our YouTube page, True North Eager Beaver YouTube page, and click like, share, and subscribe, those are the 3 buttons that we have for you. It makes us very happy. It earns you our gratitude. That's a pretty good thing. You can maybe get a cup of coffee with that. Never know. And if you'd like to help us in other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's Head brings you to our tip jar, because if you would rather offer a coffee than get one, well then, you can do that. You can offer us a coffee or a hot chocolate, because you are what you drink. Just saying. Our tip jar is at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. Whatever you can leave us there, we very, very much appreciate, especially since we're closing up to the end of the month. And if you cannot leave us anything, please do not worry. Or as they say in New Brunswick, worry pas, man. Don't worry at all, because the gift of your participation and attention is the one that we cherish the most, right? And we love to hear from you. So please write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, our Twitter feed @trueeager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, or if you happen to be listening on YouTube, why not leave a comment right there? And if you are listening on podcast, and yes, podcast aficionados, I am now only 9 episodes behind, so I'm back in single digits. I will be caught up soon so that you could be with us in real time. And I appreciate your patience. But if you are listening on podcast, hey, how about leaving some reviews and some stars with Apple Podcasts? That helps us out too. Because democracy is something that you do, we have some provincial elections coming up, and we'll get back to news on that very soon. There's in New Brunswick and Saskatchewan and British Columbia. So please find out what it is that you can do there. I believe early voting is open in New Brunswick already. So make a plan to vote. Remember, kids don't let kids do democracy alone. Neither do cubs. So bring some with you when you go to vote. Ask your people around you, hey, are you planning to vote? Did you make your plan to vote? Let's talk about it, right? The best way to get your friends to go out and vote and the people you love is to talk about voting. Talk about how you're excited to go, right? Make an event of it. Go out for a vote and then, stop somewhere and treat yourself to dessert. Some nice pastries, something. Make a day of it. Go for a spa treatment after. Go play some sports. Just do something, spend time with friends. Make it a social event. All right. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us, please?
Exercise patience when listening to construction going on next door and it drives you crazy and you can't get any work done.
Yep.
Hear it?
I hear it. God, that's one of the most annoying sounds in the world, too. Oh, boy, it drives me nuts. Kits and cubs. Have a beaverific day. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. Oh.
I'll describe this scene. It's a serene mountain image with a lake and a giant faucet. Said this photo is from a top secret location in Canada. If this faucet is turned off, water will flow freely to California. This faucet keeps water flowing into the Pacific. All Canadians are sworn to secrecy about its location. I couldn't resist.
Oh my God. Okay. I have one for you as well, because we need to celebrate since we're talking about people receiving awards. Kits and cubs, we love this man with every fiber of our being.
Yeah, Devin.
But coming back from Europe, Devin Heroux had a meeting with the Governor General in Quebec City.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was awarded the King Charles III Coronation Medal for his empathetic coverage of sports. You can see the medal right down his lapel.
Yeah, really happy for him.
Really happy for him. This is a really, really deserved, according to the article about it. Athletes and coaches must be viewed as humans first who are doing extraordinary athletic things. This is the belief of CBC Sports senior reporter Devin Haru when speaking with them at an Olympics, Paralympics, or elsewhere, and when sharing his thoughts on social media. Quote, "I'll never know what it's like to swim as fast as Summer McIntosh or sprint as quickly as Andre DeGrasse, but I do know what it means to win. And I do know a loss, and they do as well," Haru said this week after recently returning from Paris after covering his 4th consecutive Olympics and Paralympics. Quote, "When we realize and appreciate the humanity that lives within athletes, I think we can speak differently to them and ask more thoughtful questions. In turn, we get more beautiful, vulnerable, revealing moments that allow the audience to appreciate them in a very human way." Haru and 58 others were presented with the King Charles III Coronation Medals on Friday at the Citadel of Quebec for making a significant contribution to Canada, a province, territory, region, or community who have achieved abroad that brings honor to the country. The Saskatoon native is being recognized by the Office of King Charles III under the category of diversity and inclusion for providing, quote, "top quality, enthusiastic, and empathetic professional sports coverage as a senior multi-platform reporter." Making the presentation was the Governor General, the Right Honorable Mary Simon. The Governor General is one of several nominators, with the medal being awarded to 30,000 individuals in total. Honored and humbled by the recognition, 37-year-old Haru pointed out, quote, "It's a celebration of those whom I've worked beside and all of the athletes who have shared their victory and defeat with me. I'm also so grateful that Governor General Mary Simon is recognizing the importance of diversity and inclusion in sports journalism. For a long time, words like inclusion, empathy, and compassion were seen to be off limits in sports journalism, and I think that the athletes and audience were done a disservice because of that." Periodically, Haru will remind his 89,000 followers that he is one of the few openly gay national sports reporters. He did so in June before hosting a Pride panel conversation on sports and sexuality. But he hasn't always felt this level of comfort. Haru recalled fear and doubt when he broke into the business as a sports information assistant at the University of Saskatchewan. And if you remember the first interview that he had with us, he told us how, Kathleen, darn, she does the thing from Alberta.
Yeah, I want to say Kathleen Petty, but I don't think that's...
I think it is. Is it not?
I
Yeah,
can't remember.
Kathleen Petty from CBC. I believe it is. Was the one that kind of smacked him upside the head and said, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Why are you not just being yourself?" That was what he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "I was confronting my sexuality and what it might be like to be a sports reporter as a gay man in Saskatchewan," remembered Haru, who covered the Huskies football, hockey, basketball teams. "In December 2007, I penned a coming out article as sports editor of The Sheaf, the student newspaper. Upon reflection, I probably wasn't ready to be so open and revealing about my personal life, but I felt it mattered because I was worried about my future as a gay sports journalist. I believe that if I could show others in my position that if they could be all of themselves in the sports landscape and maybe have success, they would be a little more brave and have a little more belief in themselves." Years later, being himself is the reason Haru's coverage and interviews resonate with Canadians, according to CBC Sports Executive Director Chris Wilson. Quote, "He's enthusiastic and curious and empathetic in real life, and when the camera turns on or when he writes a story, that's exactly still who he is. It's refreshing. I think our whole team at CBC Sports is very proud to see Devin recognized by the Governor General. I know I am." And he finishes off by saying, "I've been so fortunate to travel to all parts of Canada and the world in pursuit of sharing athlete stories. The audience feedback, comments, letters, and interest in our athletes fuels my desire to do this at the highest level every day, day in, day out."
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Congratulations. Very, very, very well deserved. We are proud of you.
Indeed, sir. All right, I got to go. I will see you.